So we're talking about All Through the Night. This is from the Parkening Method, page 76, track 78. Very pretty piece, very difficult. It's a little advanced, I think, for where you're playing, but you've done a very good job at getting these difficult chord changes down. There are a couple of general comments about this. The places where you have a buzzing sound, like this, is where you're not low enough on the fret. You're on top of the fret wire and you need to be down below the fret wire. So whenever you hear that kind of sound, you need to get off the fret. If you hear a dead sound, it might also be that you're too low. So for example, there's one place where you're playing this chord and it's very difficult for that to come out when you're fingering down below, very far below the fret. You need to get up higher to get that clean sound.
You always say higher, do you mean lower?
No, I mean higher on the neck.
Higher
on the neck, higher in pitch. So, yes, it is a little confusing for a lot of people who don't play guitar. They think of this as being lower because it's closer to the ground, and this being lower because it's closer to the ground. But this is a higher string, and this is a higher fret. So here we'll play this, and I'll pause at some of the more difficult sections. So here, to get this low F, you really need to squeeze. Now one thing that may make this easier is instead of playing the whole chord with a bar, you don't actually need these top two notes. So you can actually play like this without the bar. So it's in the first position, but we're only playing the bottom four notes. So you can play the whole bar if you want, but make sure that this finger is really cleanly down. Come down to get the C. So eventually you have to have the bar down, but start by planting that note to get it nice and cleanly. It's a difficult change there.
How would you practice that?
You have to just alternate back and forth between all the difficult chords. Pick just a pair of chords, this one here, and do it over and over 1,000 times. You know, you just do repetition for chord changes is the absolute source of the finger memory that will allow you to do it easily, and also the finger strength. The same thing. And this third line has the difficult pieces. Now, we noticed that you were tending to shift your hand down this way, which makes it very difficult to get to this high note. So you need to rotate your hand. And this is, in general, in many of these cases, you have a wide range of left-hand positions that you can choose from this way to this way. You usually want a nice balance so that the fingers are sort of in the, parallel to the frets, and the fingertips are perpendicular to the fretboard. But at times, you'll find that a certain rotation will make it easier. So the very first note, first chord here on this third line, you can't really play like this with perpendicular fingers. It's too difficult to get that correct with this finger bent like this. So we tend to rotate a little this way, and we have the pressure along the side of this finger on the bar instead of on the fleshy part, and that makes a cleaner sound. So normally you want to be like this, parallel to the fretboard, but sometimes, especially up on the first fret, you rotate your hand a little more this way. But then as we come up, it's important to rotate back this way so that the fingers are more normal. And especially as we go up here, here we want a nice, clean, rounded shape to the hand. And here's the difficult change, whoops, which I got wrong. Notice it? Okay. So you just have to practice these three chords over and over again. This is difficult because there's no finger that stays in position. All of the fingers have to move at the same time. You may find it's easier to place one of the fingers first, for example, putting down the F sharp, or it may be easier to place the whole chord at once. Eventually, you'll want to place the whole chord at once, but as a way to learn, you can use different sequences of fingering. Let me just make sure that I've hit all the notes that we made about this. So the rotation of the wrist is very important. Look for a smooth, basically look for something that looks ugly and make it less ugly. So if you have a kind of a twisted thing where your finger's all bent, figure out a way to make it smooth. And you may find that rotating the wrist this way makes it easier, or rotating it that way makes it easier. Whenever you have a finger that is not cleanly below the fret, making a nice clean sound, try rotating the hand or the finger to try to come up with a good, firm connection with the string and with the fretboard. And repetitive practice is the thing that will give you those difficult changes.